All right, so tell me about, of course, like I mentioned, the album was self-produced. Where did you guys record this album at? How did you get the studio times? You guys have to how'd you guys get in there in the studio for that?
Well, um, the management was, like I said, just a buddy of ours. He had a band. He was an old school Austin guy. He knew studios. He knew engineers that worked at studios. He just made a phone call, and it happened to be Cedar Creek, where like I was saying, a lot of legendary locals had recorded out. Stevie Ray Vaughan probably recorded there, but in my eyes, just a lot of the working bands around Austin recorded there, and the Offenders recorded there, which is this hardcore band. I don't think the Butthole Surfers recorded there. They could have, and they're from San Antonio, which is right down the road from Austin, where me and the Watchtower guys were. But anyway, Cedar Creek, and we thought it was a big deal because it's a real recording studio. And learned a lot. Just learned a lot. So green, um, the recordings the earlier recordings of the energetic material that we did down in San Antonio, that studio was called The Boss. It was called Bob O'Neill Sound Recording Studio. And, that was a good experience, but like I said, it was like things were changing internally with the band. We had gotten new equipment. We thought, we want to redo this because also the material is getting better. We're grow. Didn't wasn't very long, but between 83 and 85, early 85, our songs had really stepped it up. Faster, more technical. Parts had been honed in on. My voice had changed. So yeah. So by the time we're at Cedar Creek recording what would become Energetic Disassembly, yeah, man, it was time to try to do it for real. Now, I will give you some behind the fine print is two of the songs were already recorded. We played a Battle of the Bands sometime in '85 and won some recording some studio time, some free studio time. And we recorded Tyrants in Distress and I believe Meltdown at a place called Earth and Sky Studio. And the engineer on that was Kerry Crafton, who is known for, I believe, producing some. Uh, I'm cool with being wrong, but uh, I know he did Rigor Mortis,
Wow,
and I'm pretty sure he did Guar as well, some
wow.
early Guar stuff. And Kerry's still around. He's in the Dallas area now, but he was the engineer on Meltdown and Tyrants.
Wow.
And so we already had two in the can. So ultimately, we only had to record like 7 or 8 more songs.
Wow. That's cool. And
Yeah.
for the band in those years, of course, 83, 85, you guys were basically only playing in Texas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't until the end of '86 that we even had any traction or like balls to even try to reach out and go play somewhere else. But Texas is big.
Yeah. It's huge.
We were playing from Dallas all the way down to Corpus. So that's Corpus and Houston and McAllen and San Antonio, of course, and of course Austin and then Dallas, and that was a good sort of like circle that we were doing with Hellstar and with Slayer and with other bands and producing our own shows, and it was the best. And there were early bands around '84 and '85 that were coming through, like Nasty Savage from Florida, and there had been a couple of shows, like Trouble
Yeah.
came through, and we got to open for Trouble, and then by '86, Watchtower In Austin, we had opened for Slayer, LA, the real Slayer,
Real Slayer.
Anthrax, King Diamond.
Wow.
That would have been in '86. That was Fatal Portrait Tour.
First USA tour. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And then Exciter, Grim Reaper, and then there were other bands that were on packages with that, like Victory and Laws Rocket, and Bay Area bands that come through who are important bands who are talked about in Murder in the Front Row, the film and the book and stuff. And so all this stuff was happening for metal, and Texas was on the map, starting to get on the map. Um, and Pantera all this time was kind of like a butt rock band, like a glam rock band, and but they still had befriended the guys in Metallica and Anthrax, and they were buddies with it, and they were up in the DFW area opening for all the same bands, Anthrax, King Diamond. They were could have been playing shows with Metallica. Who knows? Because I know Metallica came through supporting Raven on their first tour because it was a label tour, it was a Megaforce thing. But that was in August of '83. So all this shit is happening, all this awesome shit, and Texas was no stranger to it, which is fantastic. So Watchtower had sort of like started to culminate with the tape trading and the fanzine people and cassette tapes, and yours truly licking stamps and calling people and contacting fanzines and sending stuff out, and we had started to get a little bit of traction. And the gigs that we did out in the Bay Area were solely put together by Ron Quintana, who named Metallica, who had the fanzine Metal Mania. And it was just a couple of phone calls and email. I'm sorry, there was no such thing as email.
Not
Sorry,
yet.
slip of the tongue there. Uh, it was we had to write each other.
Yeah.
We had to lick stamps. We had to look at each other. I still have letters from Ron. It's funny on the backs of like metal flyers and shit. It's awesome. I'll take that shit to my grave. Um, it was just a good time. But yeah, the first two shows we played out of state were in the Bay Area, and it was the October of early October of '86. And then Billy was leaving, and we got Ron in January, and we tried to keep it going. We played San Antonio, we played Austin. At that point I started to moonlight a little bit, and by March of by March of '88, I think I had to basically walk away from Watchtower because I got an offer to I got a deal with another band. That would be Dangerous Toys.
And going back to '86,
Yeah.
around this time is when did Pantera ask you to join the band, or was that is
No,
that
no, no. They did not ask me to, your words, join the band. I was asked by their father, and then a week later, after, by Vinny, uh, to audition. I repeat,
audition?
offer to audition, which I turned down.
And do you
And
regret turning that down, or
well, let's think about it for a second. Would they be what they became to be with me singing? Who knows? I, me personally, am telling the world, I highly doubt. I'm not saying they weren't. Those guys, the Abbott brothers, were not destined for greatness and creating something. Rex too. He was their brother. He grew. They raised Rex. When you kind of think about it. So the point is the same. They needed Philip. They needed Philip. But, they had just lost Terry Glaze, and they were looking for someone who had a buzz, someone who was being talked about. And Watchtower was being talked about. So that was why I got the call. And I found that out directly from the horse's mouth in one Daryl Abbott. I was like, dude, why me? And this is at a Pantera show. I think it was in San Antonio at Sunken Gardens Theater. and Typo Negative is playing, and we're behind the stacks, like hanging out, you know. And I'm like, dude, why me? What was that? What was that all about? That's crazy. And he was like, dude, you had the biggest buzz in Texas. You know, we just wanted to try out all the dudes, and my friends knew you and had your number. And I was like, all right, that's cool. Fair enough, fair enough. So, but yeah, being asked is an honor to even be able to talk about. And I'm glad that it's not on everyone's lips all the time. It almost made me want to omit it from my bio, you know? But I think that any way that I can promote Texas metal, I'll drop a name. Fuck it.
And why did Billy White leave the band? Why did he leave Watchtower?
Uh, Discovering things about himself, discovering things about other styles of guitar and music and production and singing and melody and growing up. Decided that he didn't want it to be this. I mean, it was like, am I going to be in this band and then try to form all this other stuff and be in those, you know, this play this kind of music with these guys and this kind of music with these guys and keep Watchtower going, or do I want to be focused? And I think that uh, the latter. You know, he wanted to be focused on what was good for him. It was he didn't quit because you know he got a better job. You know, it wasn't that at all. It was influence of music, being influenced by period music period, not just whatever Watchtower should be all the time. Because you know Watchtower is kind of a, when you say Watchtower, it you expect, you have, we as metal fans have come to expect it to be this one thing, this crazy fucking thing. And so him knowing that and being able to see that, probably wanted to go do other things that probably wouldn't have gelled with in the scope, right? And I respect the shit out of that. Now at the time, being young, the young people we were, you don't know about that. You're bummed that your brother's leaving, so your emotions get in the way, and you get maybe angered and like, oh man, leaving us high and dry. There's that, but then there's the other part where you're like, part of me kind of understands this in a weird way. I don't want to admit it, but you know, maybe. So yeah, that's why I think. And you know what? Same answer goes for why did you leave the band? Same thing.
Same thing. All
Same
right.
thing. Because if you remember, I'm not writing lyrics. I wrote melody lines. The notes that I'm singing, I wrote those. Even on Control and Resistance, that's not me singing, but I wrote those melodies.
That was the next question, Ashley. So you had a lot to do with the writing and control and resistance too.
Correct. Now there's songs on there that I had no part of at all, but there's about 7 songs maybe that Alan, who is a dear friend, learned my versions of those songs so he could go record them in Berlin when they got the deal with Noise Records. So I never got any credit for writing those melodies. You know, it's one thing, it's their lyrics, but I'm writing the melodies that are going over this that people called music. Well, that's not music until there's something happening on top of it that's either a solo or a melody or some kind of something something to hold on to while you're, you know, running the gamut of whatever a Watchtower song is doing to your brain because it's crazy shit, you know.
And
So, go ahead.
when you got that offer to join Dangerous Toys, how was it like, changing the complete, because it's a different music scene, of course, that you were playing in with Dangerous Toys. So how was that?
I mentioned a little while ago that I was actually moonlighting. I was singing with 2 or 3 other bands, and it was a very less extreme type of rock music. But it was rock music. It wasn't whatever Watchtower. Can you call Watchtower rock music? Sure you can, because it's loud and fast. But you know, more of a contemporary blues infused rock music. You know, cover bands or whatever. And I was actually learning a lot about my voice, right? Like learning how to sing was on my list of things to do since I first started singing. It wasn't just like, okay, Watchtower, this crazy ass. Well, no, you got to think about all the cover songs and all the melodic songs that Watchtower was covering before we got to where we became Watchtower and whatever that is synonymous with Watchtower in 2022 and beyond. So, because people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you hear Watchtower, you're like, oh shit, oh
Yeah.
fuck, it's like this. Whoa, you can't
Yeah.
just go, some shit called Watchtower. No, dude, it's crazy music.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard Energetic Disassembly because, of course, you can't find it on streaming anywhere. So a buddy of mine actually had one of the original CDs, and we all
Hmm.
burned it, and we all had like
Sure,
burned copies of it, and it was
sure,
awesome. It was back in high school, so
sure.
yeah,
So, I was moonlighting. I was doing all kinds of bluesy, hard rock, metal stuff, whatever, pop stuff, whatever. And you know what, dude? I was learning how to use my voice in ways that were new and somewhat difficult for me. At least I thought. I didn't think I sounded good. I wanted to work on my voice. It didn't mean quit Watchtower by any means. It did not mean that. But when it came to like, there's some like, oh shit, there's a manager, and oh damn, there's this label, and oh damn, they want us to go to California, and all of a sudden I have money. I'm going to have money in my pocket, and I'm going to be on the road, and all of these things are like sitting right in front of me. Probably made it a little easier for me to decide to sing songs that I wrote, which is another big one.
and of
See,
course,
because I was singing their lyrics, right? I was singing their songs. I felt like they were my songs, but when it came time to really look at what was happening, I was uncredited for anything in that band. I'm not mad about it. I was too young and green, and so are they, to realize that, dude, the notes that I'm singing, song to song to song, part to part to part, those can't. That's my intellectual property, uncredited for it.
with Dangerous Toys, how was it like? You guys had your success, of course, in '89 and '91. How was it like in those early '90 years when metal was changing, rock music in general was changing? How difficult was it for the band to keep going on in those years?
For the
Yeah,
toys,
for the toys, yeah.
uh, well, I have a theory about your what I feel like your question is really pointing at, and then I have coming from just a guy in a rock band. Uh, just because the wind blows the dollar bill or whatever it is that some people are after, because business is business and it's about the dollar bill, the integrity lies within the band's decisions on reasons of why they do what they do. So Dangerous Toys had no intention of changing the style or the wardrobe of what the band was already doing just because another style of hard rock, loud rock to be even more generic, was doing. What the Just because the wind blew the dollar bill a different way, we're not going to run after it. We're going to continue doing what we do, whether it's passe or retro or y'all need to catch up to what the new guys are doing. It's like, well, you don't tell AC/DC that. You don't tell Slayer that. You don't tell. I mean, Metallica bent their own rules so they could profoundly change the world even more than they already had. And I think that they made the right decision to become. I know they're a brand now, and I get that. Uh, and I understand that fully. But I think that where they are as human beings now is the world has learned a lot about, being hardcore all the time. It's like, guys, Metallica, they're people who think they sold out or like, wrote ballads or, wrote boring hard rock songs, or aren't metal. This record's not metal enough. From, hey, what happened to even Injustice for All? Hey, what happened to Master of Puppets? Everything up to Master is great, and fuck the rest. I come from that. I am partially that person. But but when you become long in the tooth, old, when you get old like me, you kind of like, you say, well, do you want your career to be a career, or do you want to go out in a flash and be remembered for that flash? Well, they're both pretty great. And I think that Metallica, even though in some fashion had to circle the wagons and ask them their own ask themselves, why should we continue? Give me a reason to continue to be Metallica. I'm not trying to put anything in their mouths, but when you listen to their catalog and you hear the differences and where it changed, and it was kind of like, wow, okay. And then where they are now, I mean, I kind of like Metallica.
Yeah, I like the last album. It's great. Hardwired. I think
When you think about it,
yeah,
when you think about what it is, and it's kind of like the great feel of the old mixed with whatever the Black Album had on it, because the Black Album is kind of the pivotal record.
yeah.
Now it's not Load and Reload.
No.
It's stronger than that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, I
So
think it's an album that kind of fits perfect at the time of the early 90s. It kind of has a good mix of the metal, the late 80s, and it even has some of the innovative sounds that were coming out in the early 90s. So I think it's a great mix. That's why it did so well.
the Black Album is pivotal, and it is also the first record that became uh, the radio album.
Yeah.
This, it had the right material, the right production, the right everything. And you know what? Metallica had to work to get to that area where all the stars could align, where they could they got Bob Rock. A lot of people don't like his production. They say it's too polished. Well, you know, they could have got somebody else that has a name for doing like more old school style, less polished, a little bit more raw, and it would have come out. I mean, what about all the argument about Injustice for All?
Yeah, that's true.
Personally, I don't mind the production on
Yeah, it's
Injustice for
great. I
All.
love
I
it
think
too.
I think
Yeah.
Jason got the raw end of the deal on the bass tracks, but uh, think about the songs.
Yeah,
That
it's just
record is a motherfucker. So
it's
when you
amazing,
think
man.
about what they went through and all of the trials and tribulations, and just be reasons to wake up in the morning and be a band after you've conquered the world, they conquered it again. And they may have lost some hardcore fans along the way, but dude, they paved the way for everyone else. And there's something to be said about that. It's Vanguard. It's huge. It's bigger than all of us. And they're just trying to be a rock band. Let us be a rock band. If you like the record, awesome. If you don't, awesome. We still love you. We're people. We want to grow old playing music. It's kind of an important sort of like world that, you know, which is why it's a brand now. It's a family. It's a business. They own radio stations and arenas. They are, and they're like the reason why. And you could fill in those blanks however you want. But um, that time, 89, 90, 91, I was lucky to be a part of that and to be on top of the mountain touring with my idols. Lucky. And then by the time 92, 93, 94 comes around, there is so much diversity that there were a lot of people out there that came before even Toys was even a twinkle in our daddy's eye. As far as like I'm talking about before our record had even before our band had even become a thing, and I'm talking about the early hard rock, 70s and 80s hard rock that was prior, because people call the Toys an 80s band. That record came out in '89. We almost missed our window.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of weird. I mean, if that record would have come out in 90, 91,
No.
92, forget about it,
Yeah.
man. So, really lucky to be where we were at the
Right at the
time.
tail end.
Yep, yep. And you know what? Some of it was still pretty good. There was a lot of stuff, and I had befriended a lot of those people. Rhino Bucket, Junkyard, Circus of Power. The first Bang Tango record is Mean. There's a lot. Raging Slab. Uh, God, I miss it. I miss those bands because it was hard. Some of them are Junkyard still around, Rhino Bucket still around, and Circus of Power is out in L.A. trying to do the same, trying to keep it alive, and I respect that because what else are you gonna do? Don't change what you do and who you are because it's not popular anymore. So yeah.
And with Watchtower, you guys did a few reunions, I think, in the late '90s, right? And
No, 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 no. Later, we did. No, you're not totally wrong. We did
the festival,
2000.
yeah.
2000, we did Bang Your Head Festival in Balingen, Germany. Saxon, Exciter, Crocus, uh, Schmier from Destruction introduced us as per my request. I wore his bullet belt on stage. Love me some old German thrash.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, and a lot of bands like that were on the bills like a 2 or 3 day thing, and we loved it, and we killed it. We only played like maybe 40 minutes, 45
Wow.
minutes, and we played, the material that we had, stuff off the first and second record, because
And is
that's
there any
all we were
reason
doing.
why you guys only did a couple appearances? Like you guys did another one in 2008, right?
No, 2004.
2004. What?
So in 2000 we did a couple of warm-up shows. We did Austin. We did where our crowd kind of congeals and where we're from. It's where our biggest, you know, population is in Austin and San Antonio. So we did a couple of warm-up shows, and then a few days later flew over and played the festival. The same thing happened where we were asked to play a prog metal festival called Headway, the Headway Festival in Amstelveen, which is right by Amsterdam in yeah, in the Netherlands. So uh, same thing. Did an Austin show, did a San Antonio show, and just warmed up. Couple shows. And your question was that is there a reason why we only did two warm up shows?
No, like has there ever been an offer to do like a full US tour or anything? You guys never
No,
wanted to do that.
no, no. There was no offer.
No offers. Okay.
Right.
And with the late 2000s, of course, you weren't a part of the concepts of Math album. Why was that? With the album that
Well,
Watchtower
they
recorded.
they had replaced me. They were, you know, they had replaced me. They well, the funny thing is they replaced me, and everybody knows that because I had to walk away. So I helped them get Alan in the band. Speaking of Alan Tecchio, who people know as the singer on Control and Resistance, the second record, and then they toured in Europe with Alan for that record. Fast forward to you know in the '90s, and then the 2000. I did the reunion shows, and sort of in between that stuff, there was some material coming my way from those guys, and they were interested in having me come back into the fold and write some new material. And I was glad to do that. And so it was like 2008 ish. I've got work tapes behind me that are dated that have me singing on stuff that's on Concepts and Math.
Wow.
Yeah. It's on the shelf back here. I'm like pointing at it.
Wow.
Anyway, to not throw rocks at anyone, I don't feel like they were happy with the stuff I was coming up with. and they had an idea of how they really wanted it to be. They wanted it to be a sound a certain way, maybe more melodic and less thrash singer, you know, less like crazy. And I remember a conversation with Ron. I was like, why wouldn't it work, you know? And he was like, that's just too wacky. The stuff you're doing is just way too crazy. And I'm like, hold on a second.
Hmm.
Watchtower is wacky.
Yeah.
Watchtower is crazy. So you want to put like this melodic metal singer on top of this stop start riff crazy instruments falling down the stairs in time at 100 miles an hour? Okay. Like in other words, I feel like they wanted it to be the melodies, the vocal melodies, wanted them to be a little bit more quantized, a little bit more prepared. Not predictable, just sung in a fashion that was number to number, right? And less disconnected and like wacky, crazy, shoving, you know, and which I always thought that was the charm of Watchtower, is how like, oh my God, this, what's going to happen next, you know? And I think that they wanted it to be a little, I'm not going to say like Dream Theater, but they wanted it to have something pointing towards something a little more arranged, vocally, right? And I think that they pulled it off. That Alan did a lot of work for those guys, and finally got some credit for it.
And this is the last question here. What do you think about like music, especially rock music? Do you think it's harder to make it in today's rock music world? I think it is. I think it's tougher now in today's world to really make it and make some money now with the way streaming is and all that. What is your opinion on the way music is going and the future of it?
Well, everyone is in a band, and I think that everyone says they write songs, and everyone wants to either, in some capacity, be a singer, like karaoke. There's people film themselves now doing karaoke and have their own YouTube channel, and now those singers are singing for the real band.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what I
name.
mean?
Yeah, we
You
don't
think
want to
it's
name drop here, but
no,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy, right? And,
yeah, yeah.
and on one end, it's kind of cool. That's like this amazing dream come true for someone, and that's kind of cool, especially if you kill it. If you're just killing it, it's kind of crazy. But so it's become this thing where, the words like rock star, that's an energy drink now. It's dumbed down, it's defiled, it's devalued. Music is, like young people. I work with young people because I teach music. I've been teaching for a decade and a half, 16 years. And so kids don't know, like young teenage kids, 12, 13, 14, they don't really realize that their Apple account that's paid for by their parents, that the artist on there is selling their intellectual property. They spent time
Yeah.
creating that sound and those lyrics to make a living. And now that it's so devalued and like, ugh, right?
Yeah.
Kids think that music should be free. Like
Shouldn't.
what get a knock on your bedroom door. Yeah, what do you want, teenage kid? And he's like, "Oh, I'm just letting you know that I'm not paying for your Apple Music account anymore, so you're gonna have to get a job so you can listen to that crap on your own. Okay, bye. Have a nice night." And they're like, "What?" Throw something at the door. Fuck you, Dad. And so they realize, okay, oh damn, I have that. That shit ain't free. No, man. There's a reason why you pay a monthly fee for. It's like it's a minimal fee you pay, that those digital platforms pay the publishing companies, to that trickles down, and it's pennies, man,
Yeah, it's nothing.
to the artists.
Yeah.
To the artists, that they're the reason that shit exists. And it's just fucking weird. It's so weird now. But it's devalued. The whole thing is devalued. So yeah, it's hard by that standpoint. But with the digital age, I'll just chalk it up to that. There's a lot of DIY. You can use resources online to do it all yourself and promote it all yourself and write it and record it at home, in your bathroom, in your garage, in your bedroom, all in a week, and have it up on for sale in a week. It's kind of interesting.
But it's just really hard now to kind of say like I can actually make a living off it because you usually have to
No,
keep doing other stuff or it's really
yeah,
hard to now just be only a musician.
saturated. The first thing I said to your question was everyone can do it. Anyone can do it. And so now everyone is a star. YouTubers, self-produced records go up on platforms and it's one person writing and playing everything, and some of the artists write amazing material, but it's so oversaturated. It just seems to me like A&R from whatever's left of a major label. I'm talking like a dinosaur because I am. They don't even have to leave the house to find new talent. They just go on
Yeah,
YouTube.
pretty much. Well, I want to thank you, Jason, for coming on the show today.
Oh man, you're
It was it
welcome.
was it was a great to have you on today. We had a great long interview, but we had a great conversation about a lot of different topics.
Yeah, man.
And make sure to the Talk Louder podcast. Make sure to tune in. I'm going to tune into the next episode and
Cool.
rock on, everybody. I'll see you around.
Thanks.